Everything's in motion. This is one day at a time. Everyone has cancer, and this is where I battle mine. What's up again, guys? Welcome to episode number 9. Welcome to episode number 9 of Everyone Has Cancer. Man, I feel like I've been doing this forever. I think I've said this on every single time, but not even in the double digits yet. But I feel like this show's been going on for a very long time. But, welcome back. Welcome back to my show, Everyone Has Cancer. Let me tell you guys, since, I never get sick of hearing it myself, in 2001, I was diagnosed with leukemia. In 2005, I relapsed and got leukemia again and had to get a bone marrow transplant. Because of this, I kind of had to live my life a different way than most people might have to. A lot of my defining moments in my life were seen through the 6th floor in St. Francis Hospital. A lot more time was personal reflection and personal growth happened in a little room in OKC, a little quarantine unit. That this whole thing kind of became a defining moment for me. And, it helped me realize I'm going to try and nutshell it this time, which I try to every time, but, I'm a rambling man. But like everyone, it became a defining moment for me, and I ended up having to become strong and having to overcome this. And it didn't make me this strong warrior who could take on anything. There's a lot of things I'm afraid of. There's a lot of things I couldn't tell you how to handle. If you got cancer, I couldn't tell you exactly how your struggle's going to be, how the fight's going to go down. But I can tell you that it is going to produce this amazing character of you. And you may not see it all the time. That's the real tragedy of it, is that the strength that it's going to make come out of you and the person it's going to make you become is a good person, and it may not be your definition of a good person, but it's definitely someone else's. Let me try to explain that. I had so many people, and I've had so many people over the years tell me how strong I am and how courageous I am, when to me, all I did, and you've heard me say this before too, all I did to me is lay in bed, cry, and throw up, and lose weight, because all I was doing was crying and throwing up. But that's what it looked like to me. I guess that's the definition of strength. If you look it up in the dictionary, it says crying, throwing up. Because that's what I saw. So many people saw strength. So many people saw an ironclad will to survive and all this. And I guess of the cancers, I had the weakest of them. But, that's like saying, like, of the bullets you were shot in the head with, you got shot with the weak one. But basically, I ended up, never really seeing my own strength because of it. I kind of saw this, I would hear that I was strong, but how people would treat me is like a Fabergé egg, or almost like a baby made of paper mache. Like, I would get treated and handled more than I would, get respect in a weird way. And I don't mean respect as in people would fear me. I mean, I'd see my friends horsing around and like playing and stuff, but no one would, wrestle me. Like if my friends started like insulting each other, just teasing each other and giving each other a hard time, no one did that to me. Like I was this untouchable little, cute little soft egg, and it bugged me for a long time. So where I'm going with that is that strength and courage, to me, what it looks like is a inferiority complex, and crying and throwing up. Haven't recorded an episode for a little bit because I've been a little bit under the weather, but it's nothing like you've been through before. But that's my perfect example, is that some people would get the cold that's going around here in good old Oklahoma, where everyone's like kind of getting the flu really bad, including my mom. that would turn to me and say, well, it's nothing compared to what you went through. Uh, and kind of downplay the fact that they don't feel good. Or, I've had people come up to me that have had different kinds of cancer. I've had people come up that were drug addicts before that would tell me that, like, well, it's nothing compared to what you went through. And that's kind of when it dawned on me that everyone has their cancer. Everyone has that thing in their life that they went through, going through, or will go through that is going to make them face their own mortality in some way, shape, or form. And the thing is it's not always as simple as a gun to your head. Just one bad night. No, it can be like a year-long process. You can degrade down to a certain point to where, and that's why it's called rock bottom. You don't just fall there one day. You slowly start going there, but you can tell the days that, were worse than others, and you can tell all the parts that fell apart. And you never go through it alone. There's all, like, not saying you may not have the support that you see, but someone is always going through it with you. Where some people had, like me, had a terminal illness. Some people may have a drug addiction. They may be dealing with physical abuse, spousal abuse, parental abuse, verbal, physical, mental. Sexual, it could be anything. You could be dealing with mentally abusing yourself. Some people just, no matter what they succeed at, they're just depressed. It's an illness, and some people, like, you've heard me talk about my friend that I'm going to have on the show, and we're actually getting close to that, so I'm pretty excited that she is just, no matter what's going on, nothing triggers it. She is just deals with suicidal tendencies, suicidal thoughts, and but she has been dealing with it for so long that you might look and say, like, no one should deal with that for so long, but no one wants her to deal with it. But because she's dealt with it for so long, she knows how to deal with it anytime it comes up. No one wants the tornado to come through their house and destroy everything, but when you live in Oklahoma and you live down here in Tornado Alley, you know exactly what to do when a tornado hits. So this is for the people that don't know what to do, when that storm comes, that don't know how to face it. And my best advice I can give to you, which is what this show is all about, is talk about it. Get out there. Grab someone and say, hey, I'm struggling. I'm not looking for you to give me the answer, because, look, none of this stuff has a quick fix. Because it's a slow process of you falling to the ground, it is not a quick pace to get back up. I used to hate it. I still despise it today when someone tells me that, it's bad today, but it's going to be better later. Like, no, I don't want it to be bad today and better later. I want better now. I don't want to deal with this. I can think of 1,000,001 different places that I would rather be. And, we're going to get into that here in a little bit. But it's a process. I remember when they told me the first time that, like, it was going to be 2 years, that the whole treatment plan was 2 years of going back and forth to the hospital, taking handfuls of medicine, getting shot, because I still had my port, getting shots in the port, having to explain to people that, I can't be around secondhand smoke, or, that I have to be a little bit more careful than others. And, like taking off my shirt to go swimming during the summer and having this big lump in my chest and having to, like, stop and explain that. Because you can't just say, oh, it's a port. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. They say, what's a port? Well, you get a port when you have a terminal illness. A terminal, like cancer? You had cancer? And now that's the talk of the next conversation we're going to have. And yeah, I mean, it didn't make it, didn't by no stretch of the imagination does it turn you into a pure soul. Like, my goodness, no. It didn't make me this awesome, legendary, like, unbroken, completely purified blue chipper guy. No, I still deal with problems, today, mental, physical, and and all that stuff. And to give you an example, is this show, guys, I didn't start just to help others. I started it to help myself. I just, that's why the amount of people that listen, it does mean something to me, but just the fact that I'm talking and getting it out there, this is me trying to make sense of it. And that's the thing is when you go through, these problems and that defining problem in your life, that all-encompassing questioning your mortality, facing death type situation, you don't know why you're there, and that's one thing you struggle with is why like that's one thing I struggled with for a long time. I've mentioned it before. I used to drive around and wonder if it was because God was punishing me, that maybe if I was a better Christian, I wouldn't have gotten sick. And how ridiculous that sounds. But I mean, that's kind of the depths you end up going, like when all is risked, or when all is questioned, or what's the best way to put it? I guess when all is attacked, then all should be questioned, I guess. Because, you get focused on why it happened to you. And honestly, there's no real reason for it. You're still here. And it's basically comes down to just one word: no. You have this big thing that is making you, you might die from it, and you just say no. Well, why? No. What do you think? You're a bigger person? Do you think you got a higher calling on your life? No. Well, then why do you want to survive? No. No. I'm gonna stand here because I'm not supposed to. That's the way I see it. I'm gonna stand up and I'm gonna live because for some reason I'm not supposed to. And that's my reason. My reason is to find the reason. It's like, in martial arts, you don't fight to be the best. You fight to find the reason you fight. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Sorry, it's been a little bit since I've done a little episode, so I'm kind of like trying to get back into the feel of it. And I haven't really had a voice, and what voice I have had sounds like I'm underwater, because I'm hacking, I'm coughing, I'm trying to get over this cold of my own. But the holidays are over. It's a new year. We're jumping right into February. It's the 3rd as of recording this episode. Hopefully this episode goes up quick. But we are off the ground and running. Got some new stuff coming down from Court of Cows. We just recorded some new videos over there. If you don't know, Court of Cows is a show I'm a part of. That's this is the sister show to Court of Cows, and it's my little individual show. But most of my stuff, if you ever want to know kind of what I'm into as far as like I'm into video games. If you can be a dork with it, I'm into it. All but a few things. But like we talk wrestling, we talk video games, we talk comic books, we talk movies. Like there's a whole bunch of good shows that we like to do over at the Court of Cows. So head on over there, check out our content, and let them know. Thank you for letting me have this little soapbox of mine. But yeah, because of our subject matter, this isn't always going to be a happy show. I'm going to try and like keep it lighthearted, but there's some things you just can't talk about and be lighthearted about, because if you can, it's a really dark sense of humor. And so you'll have to bear with me on that, because us cancer victims, well, I don't want to call us victims, us people who have survived cancer, kind of have a dark sense of humor about the whole thing. So yeah, there's that. Oh, what else do I got to tell you? But yeah, that's the premise of the show. You've heard me talk about it each time. I still have a little bit more of a story to tell before we're all completely caught up. But once we're all completely caught up, I'm going to start having special guests. I did want to tell you guys that some of the special guests, it may not be anyone personally, but there's a couple of them there that, you may know. Like, I'm planning on having Richie Adams on here. I'm planning on having a few other friends on. I don't really want to list off people's names, but yeah, like right now, no one big as far as like a celebrity or anything like that. I got 8 followers right now, and I think I'm 3 of them. So, but yeah, like, actually, I think I have 5 of them, but still, I'm 3 of them. So, 5 subscribers. So, hey, I wanted to try something new. So, do what you want to do. Listen to this. I hope it helps you. That's why the, sign off and sign on is so important to me, because I want you to hear my story, and I want it to do something for you. If nothing else, just to say, well, I guess it could be worse, or to say, man, that sounds like me. That sounds like stuff I went through. You never have to. You never have to respond back if you don't want to. If you don't want your name talked about, then tell me that. I would love to hear from you. I've heard from a few people just doing this show that actually want to be on the show, or they just want their story to be, they just want to tell me their story, or they want to tell me their story so I can tell you their story. So that's kind of the direction the show is eventually going to go in, is just kind of like telling a little bit of my story, but mainly you guys' story. And, so if you guys... and the whole reason for that isn't to make a show out of your story, but to, if you want to be on here and tell it yourself, let me know, and I'll get together with you. I don't care who you are, and we'll talk about your story, because, your story needs to be heard just as much as mine does, which, like I'm just a little person in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, but people need to know that, I'm here sporting for all the people that have dealt with terminal illnesses and are still living with the survivor's guilt of that. There's certain people I'm going to dedicate an entire show to, just because there are people that may have passed away that, never really got their story told. And those are not really going to be happy episodes, but it's stuff that I want to talk about, because this is my show. And, what I want you to do is, if you like what you're hearing, if it speaks to you, if it just reaches one person, awesome. If it reaches a lot of people, awesome. Either way, if you feel inclined to hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that. Send me a like, or, the good old thumbs down. If you don't like it, let me know what you think in the comments below. I know this is a podcast, so you don't really get to see my face. Maybe that's, show's got to evolve eventually. But, like I said, only 9 episodes in. So, but yeah, I want to hear what you guys thought. If you have any questions for me, put them in the comments below. Hit me up on Facebook. You can find me through Facebook.com/courtofcows, and or Facebook.com/everyonehascancer. Because that's my page right here. I'm not really on Facebook a whole lot of times, but you ask me anything, you direct any question to me, or if you message me directly, we will talk. Believe me. But yeah, I really hope these shows have helped you. I really hope these shows have spoken to you, and I don't really have, it's kind of hard to find my page on YouTube, even for myself, before I did this, just to see where I was last time, because it's been a little bit since I recorded an episode, just to kind of see where I left off last time. I pulled up my YouTube channel, and just basically searching under a different name, my page was hard to find. So I apologize for that, but if you found me on here, if you're here, hello, thank you for digging through and finding me and actually giving me your ear. This has basically already almost been darn near 20 minutes of a guy just rambling, and you're still listening to it, and no pictures, no nothing. So I hope you're having a good drive to work, or I hope you're enjoying just listening to a little redheaded kid ramble. But hit me with a subscribe, because, the closer I get, the more subscribes I get, the easier it gets to find my show, and the more people I can reach. So if you guys can help me get to a point where we can share our story with more people, and, you don't have to jump onto the tangled mess of YouTube and sort through it to find me, then, I would love to spearhead all the help we could do for people. I want to get out there. I want to do shows with other people. Anytime, if you decide you want to be on the show and tell your story, I will come to you. You don't have to schedule, come to the office, because I don't really have much of an office. I'm literally shoved in a corner in my own bedroom. Even my own projects get shoved in the corner here. So I will come to you, and we will get down on it. We will make this show, and just help me get. It sounds so pretentious. That's why I'm kind of rambling, and it's hard for me to say, because as far as follower, it's not about being popular. This is me just kind of talking to myself. I'm not just trying to get big off telling other people's sad stories. What I want to do is, the more people I can get involved with this whole thing, the more people we can reach. And because not everyone has a terminal illness. Like I said, some people have dealt with physical abuse, have dealt with drug abuse, mental, sexual, domestic, all sorts of kinds of abuse, or have had just so many issues that I cannot begin to define. I've never really, I've been suicidal before, but I've never gotten to a point where I was writing letters. I've come close to, writing letters and, saying goodbye to people, but I can't define that. When it comes to sexual abuse, I can't define that. And I don't mean that I want you to come on here so I can say, yeah, isn't that messed up, and just look at you and ask for more subscribers, because it's a weird way to define it. I think I'm putting too much thought into it, because I kind of tend to do that a lot. But if I can get someone on board that knows something about suicidal thoughts, that knows something about drug abuse and heavy, going to rehab and stuff like that, then they can touch people that I can't. They can reach people that, hey, someone might listen to this and say, okay, I don't know a thing about cancer, but good Lord, I could use help. I don't know if I should go to rehab or not. So, that I want as many people on here with as many different stories, and everyone has a unique story. Everyone has that problem that they're dealing with. So I know if we all just jumped up and told our unique story, because what these stories have done to us is made us the best version of us, and it has given us a platform to stand. And when we look for reason, we can actually give ourselves the power. We can give ourselves faith and take and claim victory over this whole thing. And, sit there and say, what does it all mean? What it means is that I need to stand up, because the person who is just now going into having anxiety attacks doesn't know how to deal with anxiety attacks. I've been dealing with them for 15 freaking years. So I want to go out and say, hey, take it from a veteran. Here's how I got through it. It might help you, it might not, but here's how I did it. You are not alone. Because if every single person that has dealt with insecurity, their own mortality, or dealt with this big thing that they don't know if they can, that is insurmountable to them, and they don't see a way out other than death itself, if all those people fired off a firework at the exact same time, it would be the 4th of freaking July. Oh gosh, yeah, trying to get a little bit passionate and trying to say, that was my long-winded way of justifying saying hit the subscribe button. So I'm going to try and get real on you a little too often, but hit the subscribe, send me a comment, hit me with a thumbs up, hit me up on Facebook, hit us up at Quarter Cows. And, let us know what you want to see, what you want to talk about. And if you just want to talk to me, if you just want to talk to a friend of yours and you just hear my voice and you want to stop it right now, go ahead, do whatever you want to do. But before you leave, I just want to tell you thank you for joining us, and thank you for everything that you go through, because you are a shining light to someone. Someone is looking at you and raising their eyebrows and going, whew, they're strong. So, it's time that we put 30 minutes on the clock and see how much further we can get into our story, into this story of mine. Where we left off was we had just recorded a CD, or I had just recorded a CD with Critical Nonsense. And, that CD kind of didn't do so well, as in, like, it never saw the light of day. And I was having some old pains throughout that entire album. And, in my left side. And, and it turned out to be an old foe, which, I got to get better about, not giving away the ending. So, yeah, let's go ahead and throw, you know what, let's do 35 minutes on the clock today. Excuse me. Bam, bam. All right. And here we go. Start. So at this time, we finally finished recording this album. It takes a while. It takes a lot of money, and it was kind of like an early sign of the music business, because this guy, man, like this guy that was recording this album, like thought he was just a godsend. He thought he was a manager. He thought he was this ace studio recorder. But I came to find out that all he was really good at was, sucking whatever money out of some dumb kids, and saying that, well, this is the price for fame. And, because, like when we finally had the album done, the music sounded amazing. Like, to give you an example, the opening song that you hear at the beginning of this show right here on Everyone Has Cancer, that was recorded there. I'm not like refusing to say the guy's name, and I'm not refusing to say the studio name. I feel like the dude's name was Brian, but I really don't remember the name of the legitimately. I'd probably have to ask one of the guys from Critical Nonsense, because we're still friends after all these years, and I'd have to ask him what the studio was called. But man, it was I really, like, the entire time, like, I think it could have been the fact that, my side was really hurting. It could have been the fact that I had recorded before and thought that maybe I was an expert, and maybe it was an ego thing. But eventually it just kind of turned, how it felt was that no one was listening to me, and this guy had all the answers, even though, I was saying, hey, to Chris, the guitarist, like, hey, he's making you record the same guitar track 9 times, and he's charging us, like, so much money, like, well, I don't know, like $75 an hour. Like, dude, you're overlaying these tracks too much, and it's sounding like, are you listening to the recording now that we're at, like, 7 or 8 different tracks of the exact same riff? It sounds overproduced. And I was trying so hard to get my point across, that I was like, yeah, everything's gonna get overproduced, and we're spending more hours because he's charging by the hour. He's really tacking on some hours. It was kind of like how I felt was like, is if you were to take a taxi in like a big city like New York or something like that, and and the taxi driver really wants to get that extra few dollars, so he keeps conveniently missing his exit. But yeah, like that's kind of how it felt, is like, and everyone just thought, yeah, that's a good idea, we need to overproduce it, and then it would get overproduced, and it would sound way too big, and you couldn't really understand what was going on. So then they'd have to spend a couple hours trying to fix it and like figure out what went wrong. So, and we're getting charged for that too. So like, and I'm the only one, like I felt like I was the only one that was like, does no one else see what he's doing here, and I remember him telling us early on, yeah, and I know this sounds really bitter, and this is like 15 years ago, but yeah, like I remember him telling us, like, he's going to give his advice. You don't have to take it, but he is going to give his advice. Do with it what you will. And, we agreed to that. Like, going into it, we knew he was going to give advice, and he told us, like, he was the one that recorded Disciple, and they got signed because they listened to him, and so he is going to his sage-like advice because that's the advice that got some band signed. He really painted this pretty picture that you should listen to me, and there were some times that we disagreed with him, in the recording process, and we thought that meant that he would give his advice and he would say, "Well, I disagree, but go ahead. It's your album. If you want it to sound like crap, go ahead." Even a little bit schnickety like that. But what it really meant was that he would stop the recording dead bang, tell us what we're doing wrong, how he would do it, how we should do it, how the notes I should be singing, the lyrics I should be singing, how the bass line should be going, how the guitar riff, how the a lead riff should be played, where the way you guys have been playing it and the way you want it presented, that's bad. You should hit these notes instead, and he'd want to change entire riffs. And if we didn't listen to him, it would become an argument, and he would sit there and argue with us and argue with us and argue with us until we did what he said, because that's the thing again. He could argue with us all he wanted, because as long as we argued, we were still getting charged by the hour. So we would eventually have to say, yeah, let's do it your way. And like I said, listen to that opening track, that little bit. The music sounded amazing, but there's a reason there's no vocals on it. And that reason is because I recorded the vocals. He argued with me every step of the way with how it should be sang, how I should be doing it, what I should be saying, how it translates. And you can't, I remember we had one song that, it was supposed to be like a very, a music interlude, and we were going to do things a little bit different where the vocals wouldn't start until a minute into the song. And that's what we did. And that became a huge argument. I distinctly remember him coming over the mic while I was in the recording booth, in the vocals booth, and him saying, "Hey, so why haven't you sang yet?" And I was like, the vocals don't start until a minute 15 into the song. He was like, "You can't do that on a studio album." And I was like, yeah, you can. Because we're doing it right now. And, that's how the song has always gone. It's just a musical interlude. If we want to make it its own little track, then let's make it its own little track. But that's how this song has always gone. And he sat there and argued and argued and argued until Chris, we ended up having to go home that night. Chris ended up writing an entire lead over it, and it was basically a solo for a minute 15, just showing off how good Chris was. And Chris was a damn good guitarist, and Chris Ballalong, and he was all self-taught, he never took a lesson in his life, and but he wrote the solo that you hear at the end of this show. That's all him on guitar. He was amazing, and it kind of brought out the best in him. But, still have a little bit of a bone to pick because, once I recorded the vocals, I got them all recorded, the rough drafts down. And, and by that time, lo and behold, we were out of time. Not because we were on a deadline, we were out of money. The engine had to stop there, and we had to work with what we got. And he gave us this big promise that, now that everything's recorded, he knows the sound we're going for, so we don't have to be around. I kind of touched on that before, and I was not comfortable with that. What if the vocals don't sound right? What if I didn't? What if I was a little flat? What if and I've done this. I've spent a lot of time in studios, and what if I'm just listening to the track and some spark goes off, and I'm like, what would sound really good there is if the backup vocals did this instead of what it's doing. And I've never been able to hear it before and hear how it's going, so I couldn't really pick that out. And what if I need to get up and re-record something? What if something is the backup vocal and the lead vocal are just clashing and they just don't sound right? or what if they're clashing a little too hard and the frequency's off? Like there's too many unknowns. And he sat there and promised us that like he knew what we were going for, and for some reason all the guys said, yeah, like, well, yeah, okay, well let's do that. And we get the recording, and the music sounds immaculate. The music sounds like, the recording you hear. The vocals literally sound like I called the next day and recorded them over the phone. Like, they sounded awful. Like, the backup vocals, I remember, like, none of the recordings actually exist. I don't know if I could get a hold of them. I would love it, just the music. I would love to just do the vocals myself, just with technology the way it is today. I mean, shoot, I'm sitting here in my bedroom recording a podcast, and where this goes is dependent on, how hard I work on it. I don't need a producer. I don't need a Cody engine. I don't need a lot of people behind me, or building a website. At this far in the game, to just get it going and to make it sound good, I can do that myself. Shoot, I've recorded my own songs before on my computer using the exact same setup that I have right now. So if I could ever get a hold of it, oh my gosh, I would love to, mess with it and record the vocals how they were supposed to be. As a matter of fact, I think, the two songs have somehow stood with me, and one is Overload and one is Who I Am. And Who I Am, that song is the song you hear at the beginning of this episode, or at the beginning of this show. That's my opening theme, I guess. And the closing, the riffs at the end, the solo at the end, that's from Who I Am as well. And, I might go back and record the vocals on that once I get to feeling better. But, man, I am way off topic. But through all of this, I'm still having problems with my family, with, my mother and father are still constantly fighting. My father, me and him are button heads because he is just not listening to me. It's kind of messed up now that I'm thinking about it. You find out more and more about yourself as you talk. It wasn't messed up because he wasn't listening to me. But he was, but I couldn't get through to him. And all the while, I got this pain in my side. So I finally go to the doctor and see about this pain in my side. And once I do that, they tell me they have no idea. So the pain in my right side starts. So now I got it in the left and the right. So now I'm sleeping on my back. Go to the doctor, and the doctor tells me he has no idea. Then those actually stop, and my shoulders start hurting horribly. My shoulders are like, it feels like there's no cartilage, no muscle, just bone on bone, just grinding, and they're like, I don't know if it's in the rotator cuff, in the actual shoulder itself, in the joint, but I know my arms hurt constantly. And, at this point, I'm back to not sleeping because I'm in so much pain, and I'm starting to take pain pills, like a ridiculous amount. For some, I don't know why, but at the time, like, we always had like a ready supply of like Percocet, so, as a kid, I was abusing Percocet, way back when, but, not really. I never snorted it, never like took more than I was supposed to. But man, like if I could hunt one down at night, before I went to bed, and I would pop one and just have myself a ball. But yeah, now I was like, I was watching the clock again. And because like you could take another one every 4 hours, and I was waiting for another 4 hours to go by so I could take another one because I was hurting. I was in a lot of pain, and it's around this time that I'm so frustrated with recording with this guy. I'm starting to have a lot of second thoughts about being in Critical Nonsense, because when I joined. It's all fun. I'm not screaming anymore. I'm actually singing. So it was a completely other venture where I grew up singing. I almost prefer singing. Like at the time, I preferred singing. But yeah, I started feeling like, there, like the raw emotion that I had and like the raw passion just was not there. Like I was just kind of like playing it safe and playing music that I didn't feel like it meant a lot to me. I mean, shoot, I wrote the lyrics, but and the guys meant a lot to me. But I prefer the raw energy. I prefer like the raw anger, the raw happiness. Like I don't want to just talk about, ooh, you upset me and you hurt my feelings. I don't want to like sing around it. I kind of want to be the guy that like where it's metal, where it's like, I hope you die. Like F you, you can kiss my ass and all this stuff. Like we had a song in Seasons After, and it was back in the days where, like song titles were really, really long, and it was called I Hope the Worst Thing Happens to You. Like we actually had a song called I Hope the Worst Thing Happens to You. And I think I rewrote the song and for Critical Nonsense, and it ended up becoming like, it was called Hook. And I basically had to play this metaphor of like, you've got me like a fish, like a hook has a fish and all this stuff. But yeah, kind of had to dance around and play metaphor where I just wanted to say what I wanted to say, and no one was stopping me, But yeah, I mean, like these are the thoughts I was having, and so I had so much on my plate at the time, and all the while I'm just in pain, and I start seeing all these different doctors. I remember one doctor we went into in specific. It was a like a lungs specialist. And I had to get an X-ray to even see this guy. So I got an X-ray of my lungs. They referred me to this lung specialist. Me and my mom go in there, and the doctor walks in and says, "Hey, the pain and what you're going through has nothing absolutely to do with your lungs. I don't even know why they sent you to me. I am so terribly sorry that you came here. But there's absolutely nothing I can do, say. I can't even speculate as to what's going on with you because this is completely out of my element." So basically it was like, I had a football injury and I was going to a psychiatrist for it. It was like, this is not his moveset. This is not his cup of tea. He had no clue. And there was like a $75 like copay just to walk in and see him. So we paid $75 to walk in there and him to say, "I don't know why you're here. I have nothing for you. I don't even know. I've seen your X-ray. All I can really say is you have lungs." I remember him actually saying that. Like he was just like, "Yeah, I got your X-ray. There's nothing I can say." And I was like, "What do you mean there's nothing you could say?" Like thinking that meant something bad. And he's like, "No, I mean like all I can really confirm is that you have lungs. I have no idea why they sent you to me." Like and he was so like had his hands up like someone walked in trying to fight him, and he was like, hey, we're all friends here. But yeah, I just remember him saying that and us walking back and be like, "Okay." And my mom being like, "I need my $75 back." He had no idea why we were even in the room. So there was no point to this visit whatsoever. But yeah, I'm sure you can tell where this is going. So I finally go, like I said, I had my lungs x-rayed. I have my bones x-rayed at one point, and, and I have to go to get the results of it. And I go in, and, I just go into my family doctor, and, I walk in there, and he just kind of, like, I'm kind of up on the table, and he kind of just, like, puts his hand on my leg, and he's just like, "Look, man, I hate to tell you, but we're really thinking that you're relapsing, that it's leukemia, because based on your bone scan, there's you have some." He said I had black spots on my skeletal structure because I had like a chest X-ray, and he said there was all these little black spots on my bones, and he was like, "Look, that's just very strange, and they look cancerous, these black spots. And I think these are the sources of your pain. And yeah, it looked like someone just had a chest x-ray of me and just like took a Sharpie, closed their eyes, and was just like doot, 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 and just everywhere. There was just little polka dots and just black, like literal, like looked like dead pixels in the x-ray, just black spots on my ribs and right where it was hurting. And I got out of the doctor's office, got in my car, and started crying and started screaming. Like, this wasn't like a sad give up cry. This was an angry, I was furious. I was angry, scared. It was all these emotions at once. And I remember my mom worked at the school at this point. So I just drove to the school screaming, leave me alone, get out of my life. Why can't I just be? Why do I have to go through this? Just leave me alone. That's all I had, is I didn't want to go through this again. And I get to my mom's school, like right when I've collected myself a little bit. I walk into the school, take one look at her, and fall apart again, and I can't even talk. And I'm saying, like, he thinks my cancer's back again. I'm going to have to go through everything again. Like, I have to go. I don't want to go through all this again. And now I have to. There's no amount of bargaining I can do to get out of it. Like, it's here, it's back, and my life, my life of luxury, I guess, like where I don't have to worry about these things, are back. And I'm living somewhat of a normal life, not a good guy life. Like I said, this is in the days of like drinking, being stupid, stealing stuff, and but now I'm living back at home, and I was just a kid being a kid, a bad kid being a delinquent, but like I just wanted to be normal, I wanted to get into trouble, like I wanted people to get mad at me. I wanted to feel like a normal person. And, so my mom, she calms me down, and first thing she thinks is to call Dr. Hum, my doctor from before. And we call her up, tell her what's going on, and she tells me flat out, whatever you're dealing with, it is not leukemia. And that really gave me a sigh of relief. And I was like, why do you say that? And she was like, leukemia is a blood cancer. It attacks the blood. There's not going to be spots on your bones, for a blood cancer. So whatever, if it is cancer, whatever it is, they may be little tumors, but if they are little tumors, they can be removed. There's absolutely 100% no fly zone, rubber meets the road. There's no possible way that this is leukemia, because it always presents itself in the exact same way. It's like, and again, what's a good metaphor for it? It's basically, like we're looking for a knife wound, and this victim is covered in gunshot wounds. So those don't look like knife wounds at all. Those are all obviously from a gun. So yes, your health is not good, and there's something going on, but there's absolutely no way it is what you think it is. So for some reason, that gave me peace. In a weird way, having tumors is a little bit more relieving to me than having leukemia, because a tumor you can remove. Like if I got a cancerous arm and you got to lop it off, like it sucks not having an arm, but at least you got rid of the cancer, So yeah, like, I'm not saying tumors are an easier direction by any means. I'm just saying that like the idea of them being tumors just said, okay, well then maybe I just got to get a few surgeries and just get them, popped off. So the doctor says, hey, one of the things the doctor ended up saying was that the doctor that said they think it's leukemia said that, like, well, this is just a chest X-ray. So here's what we want to do. We want to give you a shot of dye in the left shoulder and get a full scan of your entire body, or I want to get a full scan of the left side of your body with the dye. And then we want that to clear your system. We want to shoot you in the right shoulder, get a full examination of that, and then we want to get an entire, like, head to toe scan. This whole process is going to take an entire day. It's going to be like a 9-hour process, like just getting all the scans we need. Because, they had to shoot me with the dye, wait an hour, and then do the actual X-ray. And then that is going to take an hour. And then I had to wait for that to flush my system. And then they were going to shoot me in the right shoulder, and the whole process starts again. And then the head to toe, like the the intricacy of it, like the detail they were looking for, was going to take a very long time to scan. So I can't remember how long, but I remember going up to the hospital. Me and my brother sat there and just waited. And then I would go in there, get my scan, come back out. Me and him, like, both have little Game Boy Advance SPs. And so, we're both sitting there playing Super Mario World. And just, like, taking turns on it and seeing who can beat what level. And, yeah, that was that day. And, all through this, our album is being mixed down and is being processed and managed and all this stuff, and we're waiting for the final product to come out. And it finally comes out, like, after I get this scan, and I get a copy of it, and it sounds amazing, and the vocals sound, like I said, just sounded like I recorded them on a phone and just, like, patched them in. It was like the worst Photoshop. If it was a picture, it would be like the worst Photoshop ever. But yeah, like, I'm sitting there listening to the album, and I'm just like, oh my God, what is this? It sounded like the music was coming, like, just made of gold, and it was beautiful. And then, like, the vocals were, like, just in, like, it was like if you recorded the music, played it back on your computer, and then with a little tape deck hit play, and that was the vocals, and you had to sync it up or some crap. It just sounded really bad. And, the actual mixing, like, I've never been one to think my vocals were immaculate, or even good for that matter, but just the recording quality of the vocals was just bad, And, yeah, especially it paled in comparison, because, like, compared to the music, it just sounded ridiculous. Like, it sounded like, it really sounded like the budget, like, just dropped out from under it, which is exactly what happened. Like, it just kind of dumped, It's like watching X-Men Origins Wolverine up until he gets he actually becomes Weapon X, and then, like, the rest of the movie where it's, like, just really bad CGI and it just doesn't make much sense. Like, that's how it felt. It was like, what happened? But I remember being so embarrassed by that and so upset about how I was feeling and everything, and again waiting for this album to come out so we could actually start selling it and actually hear what we all sounded like together. Because that's the thing. If you've never been in a band, you know this, that, like, you think you sound good together, but you don't really. But it's when you do an actual recording and you hear it that, like, you find out, hey, that's what we're doing. That's freaking awesome, and you can become a fan of yourself. And the work you're doing. It's kind of so. That's kind of the big payoff, is we're waiting to hear, because we think we're good. We're waiting to hear what we sound like. And but I'm still kind of on the fence about even being a part of it anymore, and I'm having all these health issues, and I know I'm really, really sick, but I don't really know exactly with what. And man, the guys in Critical Nonsense, they were all friends since kindergarten. Like, all three of them, they were just this tight-knit best friends. And then here was I, here I am, like, trying to trying to come in, and trying to be a part of it. And it's just not how it plays out. Like you can't, compare like a 17, 18-year-old friendship to like a friendship based on like a couple months and call it the same thing. So they all had this great rapport. They had this great bond, and I was still trying to just be friends with them, where, I was probably really hard to record with just because I was butting heads with, the guy that was recording us. But I remember the day I'm over at the Twins' house, and it had been like a week since I had heard from my guys, and like they weren't talking to me at all, and I was trying to figure out why. And so I end up calling the drummer, and who, ironically, me and him are still friends, like me and Justin. And I called Justin, and Justin's being like real short, and I was just like, hey dude, look, the recording didn't turn out that great, but I don't think that should be a presentation of, of my skills, of your skills, but I do know that like I'm not happy with the final product. I think that guy played his hand a little too hard, and and I ended up paying for it. Or we all ended up like literally paying for it, but my vocals just ended up sounding like garbage. And he was, yeah. And then I hear him like kind of shuffle off to the side, like pull the phone away from his face. And I hear him say he thinks the guy that recorded our album just completely screwed him. And he gets back on the phone, and I was like, and, no one's really talking to me. I feel left out of, whatever process we're going through. And then I hear him again, like, pull the phone away from his face, and I hear him, I hear Chris being like, what did he say? So, like, he just keeps doing this where, like, everything I'm saying, he's kind of, like, speaking for me. Like, he just, I'm like, hey, dude, I really feel like I'm not a part of anything, and I want to be. He feels like that we don't like him. Like, and then coming back and like he was my translator or something. So finally I get up, kind of frustrated with it, and I was like, dude, I know I can hear you. I can hear you like stepping aside, so just put me on speakerphone if all three guys are there. And he laughed, and he was just like, dude, I'm sorry, I don't know how to do this. And I was like, how to do what? And I get on the phone, and Lawrence, the bassist, he was just like, hey, dude, after recording the album with you and after hearing, what it sounds like, I think we're just going in two different directions. And, I think we're going to go another direction as far as a lead singer goes. And I was like, oh, so you're kicking me out based on that album that I have fought tooth and nail, And he was like, yeah, I don't know what happened with the album, but it's just like we just kind of want to go a different way. And yeah, I was just like, all right, okay, cool. And yeah, I get off the phone with him and just again fall apart. Like I said, I was kind of on the fence about wanting to be a part of it anyways, but I really wasn't planned on getting kicked out based on something that I thought was a bad representation of us anyways. So it was just, so it just felt like a big injustice, like I was just like, no, it's not me, like if we had someone that was willing to work with this and not work and tell us how to work, and if you guys, and I was so upset, and because like my voice wasn't heard, and I didn't get anything out of it, other than like a kind of a crappy vocals that like the music sounded awesome, vocals did not. And I just started being like, dude, I'm a crappy lead singer, and just really started making me question myself. And I remember falling apart like right there at the Twins' house, and PJ was there, and he kind of just picks me up, dusts me off, and he was like, man, F them. If they can't see, like what a good singer you are, then they don't deserve you. And and he had recorded albums before, and he was like, dude, sometimes you got to get bullheaded, and sometimes it doesn't work out in your favor. Like you just But, at the end of the day, you stood up for what you believed in, and it didn't work out, and it doesn't always work out, and it really just kind of like talked me down. And, and I was really thankful for him to be there because, just kind of any kind of bad moment. Oh, there goes the timer. But, you know me, we're going to go a little bit over. And, it felt a little poetic, just the fact that, when I first auditioned for the guys, PJ was there. And when I was no longer in the band, when I got kicked out, PJ was there. Like, he was there for the beginning and the end of it. So, but yeah, I went home that night, and, man, kind of got to end on a sour note this time around, guys. But, woke up the next day, and the doctor calls and tells me that now they have a sample, now they know exactly what it is, and the thing is that it's never presented itself this way, but this is without a shadow of a doubt leukemia. And I remember laying on my bed with my dad sitting right next to me, and just, so like I get kicked out of the band, and then the next day find out, so obviously it was a very hard moment. Some moments can be so hard you can't even cry, like you can't even react. Like what you didn't want to happen and what you kind of didn't want to happen, both happen at once and in large, in glorious fashion. Not only was I no longer in a band, but I had cancer when I was told that, and I don't blame this on Dr. Hum. She was just trying to give me some mercy. She was just trying to help me out. Because it is kind of weird, but yeah, I had these little, basically those black spots were little pockets, as they called them. If you ever played Metroid Prime, like the little Phazon pools, that's what I thought of when I saw it. But yeah, they were little pockets of leukemia. If you remember, I said that when you get leukemia, there's always somewhere in your body that it sets up HQ, that there's a source where it all originates from, that it kind of implants there and then spreads. And mine was my back. This time it was little pockets all over my body, little black spots just on my bones, which is weird. I'm a peculiar guy. I've had a lot of weird stuff happen to me. Pretty typical stuff, but it always presents itself in strange fashion. But this time was different. They were like, look, he was like, so we can't do the treatment we did before, because obviously it only worked for a little while. So this time we're going to have to do a full-on bone marrow transplant. So this is the stuff that I have not really had a chance to talk about. It's stuff that has kind of always been kind of inside, because here's the thing is the first time was rough. But I vaguely remember it. I was so messed up on morphine and all that stuff that, I've joked about it before, is that I still have people come up and tell me that you could come up right now and say, oh yeah, I came up and visited you the first time around. And I'd probably believe you, because I don't remember anything. It was such a blur of just medicine. And, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. The second time around, I knew exactly what was going to be expected of me. I knew exactly the issues I was going to have. And I knew this time around it was going to be harder. It was the sequel. This time it's personal. But there's a lot to go before we get to it, to where we get to the actual bone marrow transplant. Because at this point, I'm at a very rarely... What's that? I'm at a very, very hard point in my life, probably the hardest that it's ever been. And because, all through that, I remember looking up at my dad and him, kind of rolling his eyes. Like you would do if someone got mad at you and you really didn't care, or if your kid started throwing a fit over nothing. That was kind of he kind of scoffed and was just, oh God. It was just an inconvenience to him. like he had to work till 5, and he looked at the clock and he thought it was 4:30. Turns out it was 2:30. Like that's kind of the reaction he had, and so I felt like I let him down because now I've upset him, and but at the same time I'm just staring up at my ceiling, thinking like, I mean, what do you think? I mean, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know how to feel. Like all of a sudden, nothing mattered. What was on TV didn't matter. What I was into didn't matter. What was going to happen the next day didn't matter. All that mattered is I was plucked out of existence, plucked out of life, plucked out of the current of the day and current of time, and gonna have to sit aside again, and you just wait to get better and throw them back in there. But yeah, next time we're gonna talk about getting there. Just getting, they would end up shipping me to OKC, but man, getting there the next 3 or 4 weeks was the hardest. It was 3 weeks. No, it was 4 weeks. So it was literally the hardest 4 weeks of my entire life. No matter what I go through, no matter how bad it is, to me, nothing compares to this 4 weeks that I had. And this 4 weeks is really, the first week was hard. The next 3, it was all mental. It was all me just slowly going insane. Any kind of issue that I have today that I still take medication for, I think developed around that time. If not, it was strengthened by that time in my life. But yeah, I kind of want to, that's going to be the whole next episode is Hell Month. I don't even remember what month it was. I think we were getting into, we were going right into December. So so the holidays are still like a scary time in my life. I actually have something called seasonal anxiety, and it's because, like during the holidays is like most people, like we discussed in our Christmas episode, holidays can be a really hard time for different people for different reasons. We're fixing to get into one of the main reasons that the holidays are especially hard for me. So yeah, a lot to look forward to. Oh man, I feel like I'm being such a sad sack right now. I'm being very depressing, but this is part of the story. You know what? We're going into the hardest 4 weeks of my life, but these are the 4 weeks that I was born. That this is where it started. This is where the rage, the anger that still lives in me started. The anger that doesn't want to burn everything down, but just wants to destroy anything that wants to destroy me. That any demon, any monster that I am faced with, I want to eviscerate like a demon, like a monster. I want to become the bat. I want to become what they fear because I have faced fear and I want to become it so I can use it as a weapon here. So, that's my story so far of my battles and my wars. I hope my story helps you. Now go, help someone with yours.